I don't want to say I don't want to say yes because you're already part of the crew and the family. You've jumped onto so many of them already, right? But
You can say
it's
yes.
Heather's business partner, Ashley. And while Heather is out of town, but Ashley is filling in for her. And Ashley, you take it away. What is it that we're going to be talking about to the group today?
So thank you for having me. I'm Ashley Pettit. I'm one of the licensed clinical social workers and clinicians at ChangeWorks. I'm also a yoga teacher. So one of the topics that I love kind of bringing forth is talking about mindfulness, how to integrate that, what it looks like, what it means. It's a very like hip, trendy word that's been around for a minute. But sometimes we can use a little more instruction about kind of what that actually looks like. So I would like to jump in first just by reading a story before I share any screen share or do any presentation. This is called The Parable of Two Birds. This rendition is specifically by a practitioner named Moji. And he says it much, his way of doing it is much better than so I appreciate your patience. But this is the parable of two birds. So the story goes like this. There's a tree, and in that tree, there is a bird building a nest. It's a mother bird. It has little birds. We'll say 3 of them. And it flies away and it brings back things to make the house. Flies away, brings back, kind of like so. And I'll call this bird First Bird. First Bird represents the people of the world. We go to school, we get married, we get a job, we get a house. All these activities represent the model that pretty standard for what we're given for how we're supposed to live. Very active, very dynamic. Now on a branch above First Bird is another bird. It looks identical to First Bird, but it's not building. It's not mating, it's not going out and doing, it's just looking, it's watching. And in its view is First Bird's activity, First Bird's past, its memories, but also the expanse of the environment. Second Bird represents our ability to observe with detachment, to just be aware, just observing. Now I offer you this. Second Bird is inside of First Bird. They're not separate. In our life, we have the tendency to respond to all that comes to us, situations, interactions, but inside, we all have the capacity to also just observe. So take a minute for just a sec, see if that resonates at all, see if it brings up anything. And in fact, the position that you're sitting in right now is a second bird position. It's listening, it's understanding, but it's not doing anything. It's not actively engaging in any way. And it's happening within you. So second bird represents awareness, stillness, presence. And first bird is activity. It's the body. It's the busyness. Is this something, I don't know, does anyone sound familiar, relate? Feel free to raise a hand. Not a thing. Nod to yourself. Anyone that can recognize and be able to sit in that second bird position just for a second, 30 seconds, 1 second, is practicing mindfulness. Sometimes a thought comes, it pulls you, it tries to pull you back into first bird position, like, what am I going to make for dinner? What do I need to do after this? Who do I need to call next? But it's being aware of those thoughts. It's being able to develop the ability to recognize, oh, that's first bird. I observe, I acknowledge, but I'm not stepping into first bird mode. I'm not responding to first bird. I'm not making the call or taking action on the thoughts. So we can be aware that we're logging the activity, but we're not engaging with it. And in doing so, your mind might say, but we're not doing anything. This is too passive. I don't like this stance. It's because we spent so much time in this structure of the way that we live our lives today, that we're trained to sit in that first bird position always, to always be active, always can engage. That's what success looks like. So undoubtedly these thoughts will occur. But with mindfulness, you can choose not to allow those thoughts to pull you in a certain direction. We can maybe make it a habit of just observing first bird. Watch it. Spend time sitting with it. Not fighting the urge to engage with first bird, but just letting it happen. Observing without detachment. So these are the kind of conversations that I like to have around mindfulness. This is kind of where it starts. This is what mindful awareness looks like. It's being observant of our activities, our thoughts, and engaging with them in a different way than a lot of us are used to engaging with them. So I'm going to share, I'm going to attempt, I have to tell you that technology is my least worst skill set. How about that? Okay, let's see how this goes. Okay, let's see, share. Okay. Oh, success. Can we see it? Okay, good.
See it.
Perfect. Okay. So what is mindfulness? And what is mindful awareness? So I use the terms kind of interchangeably, kind of depending on what practitioner I'm referring to. But mindful awareness is paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present, in the moment, non-judgmentally. Mindfulness, according to the dictionary, is the quality or state of being in a state of being mindful, the practice of maintaining non-judgment state of heightened or complete awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, or experiences on a moment-to-moment basis. So while a lot of folks are taught that to practice mindfulness means you have to practice meditation, that's not the only way to practice mindfulness. And my intention today is to show you other ways that you can integrate mindfulness into your day-to-day being. So I want to ask, has anyone ever had a situation where you've been driving somewhere, you've been walking somewhere, you've been doing something, and you get to the location that you have planned to go and you have no recollection of how you got there? Yeah, I see a lot of nodding heads, myself included. So we are so trained to be an autopilot. We are in the past, we're in the future, we're in our thoughts, but we provide very little time for us to sit in the present moment. And being in the present moment is what mindfulness helps us develop that skill set. I have two kind of experiential activities, one at the beginning and one at the end. So the first one that I wanted to do is called 5 senses. You can choose to engage or not. It's not something that you have to actively respond to me at all. It's more something for yourself to practice. So this is a mindfulness technique that can be used any place or time. Doesn't require a mat, a quiet space, or anything like that. It's going through the 5 senses of the body and teaching yourself to practice to acknowledge kind of what you're recognizing in your senses, as opposed to engaging with your thinking. If you start to think thoughts, that is fine. It's expected. Recognize them, allow them to pass, and encourage yourself to re-engage with one of the senses. So I'm going to go through and kind of guide this for you. The first sense that we're going to start is with seeing. So I'm going to ask you to yourself to acknowledge, label for yourself in your head 5 things that you see in your space. So, for example, I would say I see in my head my computer screen, my water, a photo, a lamp, whatever it is you see, just recognize. So 5 things that you see. When you're done with that, recognize 4 things that you touch. So for me, it's the desk, texture of my pants. You can feel the chair behind my arm. Now recognize 3 things that you hear. It can be inside your space, it can be my voice. Recognize 2 things that you smell. And 1 thing that you taste. And when you recognize those things, just sit for a second and see if, I don't know, does anyone feel anything different? And the answer can be no. Outside distractions are lessened. Yeah, so maybe more attention is focused inward. Maybe that noise, the chatter of the mind is tiny bit quieter. We're not looking for anything profound. We're looking for just tiny shifts. So I want to go over a little bit of background now that we've kind of practiced a tiny bit of what mindfulness looks like. What the background of how mindfulness come about. So mindfulness has been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's thought to have started in the East with religious and spiritual institutions, specifically Buddhism and Hinduism. And in the West, its popularity was more introduced in secular institutions. The term sati is the term, it's a Buddhist concept. It's the closest translatable term to mindfulness that we have. So sati originally is thought to mean moment-to-moment awareness of present events. Later, it was translated more to mean mindfulness. John Kabat-Zinn is the person that brought mindfulness, who's thought to brought mindfulness to the West, most notably. He was trained by Thich Nhat Hanh, who I always say his name wrong, but I hope I'm saying it correctly today. So he was trained in mindfulness in the East. He worked in Massachusetts at the University of Massachusetts School of Medicine. And he's the person that actually developed mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is an 8-week program that the military actually uses, as well as other medical institutions, to teach mindfulness to veterans and folks that experience depression and anxiety to help lessen the symptoms. And so he's really thought to be the pioneer of bringing this practice of the East to the West in a way that can be digestible in our society today. So what are the benefits of mindfulness? Some of the benefits are improving quality of life by helping people become more present in time and space. They can help people by seeing things as they are without judgment and attachment. And they're linked to changes in the body and the brain, both chemically, hormonally, and structurally in the way that the brain is structured. And these have real impacts for health, well-being, mental health, stress. There, in the past 5 to 10 years, there's been a number of studies that have actually measured the effects of mindfulness using MRIs and brain scans, as well as more like subjective experiences of folks that have mental illness and depression and anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and measuring the reduction of their symptoms. So physical health, benefits that have been, I guess you'd say, officially recognized by science. They've been measured and shown that practicing mindfulness over 8 weeks or more consistently can have real impacts for the following. They can help provide you with longer periods of relaxation. They can help improve sleep. It engages the parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest system. So it's the opposite of our like fight or flight. So when we get stressed and we feel anxious or we feel fearful, that's our sympathetic nervous system activating, engaging, being ready to fight or attack or flee. Alternatively, the parasympathetic nervous system helps us relax. It helps restore kind of that peace and calmness in our bodies. Mindfulness also helps reduce stress. It strengthens the immune system. It's been shown to reduce symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome. And I spelled improves wrong, but it improves symptoms of fibromyalgia and chronic pain. Mental health wise, mental health is a little bit more challenging to measure because much of it is subjective experiences. Hopefully someday we'll be able to measure it more, but it has shown to show a decrease of symptoms with depression and anxiety. Again, this is something that the Veterans Association uses pretty consistently now to support veterans in their recovery. Another thing in terms of mental health is that it has been shown to actually shrink the amygdala, which is the part of our brain that responds when we are fearful, and the prefrontal cortex, which is the thoughtful part of our brain, has actually shown to grow. And again, that's with ongoing practice of mindfulness over a set amount of time. So now that we kind of have a background of understanding about kind of where mindfulness came from and how we define it, one of the ways that I kind of like to engage you is to figure out how can you implement mindfulness at work, because it doesn't need to be sitting still for 30 minutes, practicing your breathing, identifying your senses. It can be easier than that. It can be simpler. And in the way that we live today, it kind of has to be for it to work for people. So some of the ways that kind of I have thought about mindfulness at work and how to implement that is, the first one is kind of making conscious choices about your workflow. So to the extent that you have the ability to do so, to kind of turn off those push notifications, creating a designated time when emails get answered as opposed to kind of answering them on the fly as they come in, and to finish one task at a time before you start. And all of these help you, they help you streamline your concentration and your focus in one area at a time, so that your mind does not have to be divided between multiple competing activities and tasks. Another way is to create mindfulness meetings. So what that might look like, and I mean, I know that it's challenging in this day and age because we're so reliant on technology. But to the extent that you are able to limit phones and computers that might cause distractions. If someone is needing to take notes, to have one person be the note taker as opposed to having everyone be engaged in note taking so that everyone else can kind of focus and engage. And likewise, then giving everybody the opportunity to speak, to engage without being interrupted. So letting kind of the full flow of a thought process, and seeing kind of what comes up. This is a technique that I teach to a lot of my clients. It's pretty simple, and it's a way to create what I call a mindful pause. So when I think of a mindful pause, I think of, so you have a catalyst, something that is an experience or a situation that creates a response. So there is a period of time between the actual experience, between our response, and the objective is to try to lengthen that distance. So creating a mindful pause between perhaps like an interaction with a colleague or an email that kind of evokes some kind of emotion or feeling, and how we choose to respond to it. So one way of doing that is practicing very simple technique of stop. So let's say you are going about your day, you get a push notification of an email, it's a client you thought was gonna go through with this deal, and all of a sudden they're not going to. You've worked extremely hard on this deal, you really want it to go through, you want it to manifest, and it kind of all falls apart. As opposed to having a strong reaction, is it possible to take a pause? So to stop texting, stop walking, stop engaging, to take a breath, like a real breath, an actual inhale, holding the breath, an actual exhale, to observe what is happening inside. I'm really frustrated. My hands are sweaty. I want to punch something. Observing what it is feeling inside and what is happening outside. So it's raining. This chair is uncomfortable. There's a lot of papers on my desk. Whatever it is that you're observing, just take note of it and then proceed. And perhaps that might offer the opportunity to have a different response than you would have if you had responded immediately. Just a thought. Take it or leave it. Everything I say is just a thought, and to be taken or left. Outside of work, there are a multitude of ways to practice mindfulness. And again, I really want to stress that mindfulness is not something that has to be done on a mat at a certain time in a certain structure. It is simply the act of engaging that second bird to observe your surroundings or your current inner state. So that can look like being mindful on a walk. So you're walking your dog, you're having observations of what your slippers feel like, having observations of what are the noises around you, what is your dog doing, what is the temperature on your skin feel like. Those simple things, although they seem insignificant, are actually training us to engage in the present moment, as opposed to being in the past or the future or all the other places that we can be. It's being mindful of the observations of what we're experiencing at this current time and space. Formal ways that meditation and mindfulness can be practiced are through yoga, through journaling, through breathing exercises. And then there are a plethora of apps on phones that can help provide coaching or things that you can listen to that kind of guide you through mindfulness activities. I personally use one called Insight Timer. It's free, and you can go in, you can kind of sort, what are you looking for? What is the time frame? Do you want music? Do you want a male? You want a female? Who do you want to listen to? And then it kind of sorts through all kinds of different tracks that you can listen to, I guess. Has anyone used mindfulness apps before, or used apps for meditation or yoga or anything like that?
I was recommended Headspace and Calm, but I have not even, I can't even get started on the thing. I'm not mindful enough to even get started on it. But
what can I ask you? So you've been recommended it. What can I ask? What do you think is the barrier?
I have too much noise in my head to like calm down. So it's funny because when you had mentioned before, the reason why I typed the outside distractions, it's like when you focus on all the different senses, at least the one thing that's being turned, this is me inside, the one thing that's being turned off is my my inner voice. So that's the loudest distraction. So when people are like, hey, you should meditate and be calm, that's the one thing that I constantly fail at is kind of turning it off. So even that little thing, I was like, oh well, the one I'm hyper aware of everything around me when I'm going from sense to sense to sense and being aware of that. But at least the head voice got shut off, or the volume turned down for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you know, it will you'll have varying degrees of what that experience is like, depending on kind of how long you practice it and what it feels like. And for some folks, the voice, you're right. For a lot of us, myself included, that internal chatter, it is the loudest thing that I experience like day to day. Outside of, you know, the noises of Waikiki and the crisis shelter that I work in, like my internal voice is the one that keeps going. It never seems to run out of words. And so, you know, for some folks, it may not even be like the idea of turning off the voice may not even be a goal that is worth setting at this point in time. However, if the voice can soften a little bit, or if we can just observe that the voice is happening and it's saying, okay, this is the list of things that I need to do. Oh, I didn't do this. Oh, I didn't do that. And recognizing that that is my voice, that is the voice talking, that is my thinking, that is my mind. I'm not required to respond at this current time. So just because it is telling me or reminding me of all these things that have happened or need to happen, it doesn't need to direct my actions. I can just observe that it's there and say thank you, okay, and move on. And of course, you know, that takes practice. One of the formal I guess trainings and platforms where mindfulness is practiced is in mindfulness-based stress reduction. So this is a 8-week course. Again, the military also uses this, and they use it for chronic pain and illnesses and depression. And similarly, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy is used for folks that have ongoing treatment-resistant depression. So folks where we are able to kind of manage the symptoms of depression, but then it keeps recurring. And it teaches people how to recognize the thoughts that trigger the moods. So what thoughts are happening that cause your mood to dip? and then creating almost like a detachment from those thoughts, and so that it doesn't need to trigger that kind of response. So I have another activity that is a little bit longer. It's called a body scan that I would like to do. However, I would like to open the space. I would kind of like to do this at the end. And so I realize that we do have quite a bit of time left, but I would like to open the space for questions, comments, concerns, situations that you want to know how to implement, or just general questions at all.
I'll say something while people are maybe gathering their thoughts or thinking of things to ask or insert. But talking about the head voice thing is, I've never been able, to conquer the quieting of that, but I've been able to work around it. Like, for instance, and I've given this like tip and trick to my agents too, which is, I was a person, when I read, I literally have to read that same page or same section 5 or 6 times, because I don't even realize I'm distracted while I'm reading. I'm reading it. I'm going through the motions of reading it. And I'm halfway through. I'm like, oh my God, I'm thinking about what I'm eating for dinner or whatever. And I'm go back again. And I'm reading it through and I'm like, I'm not even paying attention again. Like, it's really hard for me to concentrate and focus. So the hack and maybe this is good for that exercise, or maybe it's bad because I'm not working on the mindfulness and quieting the voice part of it. But the hack for me that's been super helpful in me to be able to learn, absorb, and go through books at a high rate is, I have the physical book in front of me and I have the audible version reading it to me at 2 times the speed, so that I'm focusing, my eyes are focusing on the words and I'm following along, and it's reading it to me, not in my own voice, but someone else's voice, which shuts off my own inner voice. And then I can pause, highlight, underline, make notes, resume, and I absorb so much quicker and faster because of the other side of it, which I cannot. Otherwise, I will never get through a book ever, ever, ever on my own without that kind of hack. So
you listen, the audible version is twice as fast as what you're reading?
yeah, because I don't need it. So if I just listen to Audible on my own, I'm not absorbing it as much either, because I'm distracted visually or other things. Like, if I've been at the gym listening to a book, I'm not getting the full content of the book, but I'm listening to it, and I'm not enjoying. I don't want to read it to enjoy it. So the 2 times the speed is, I can read fast, but it's reading to me at 2 times the speed. So I get through the book much faster. It's reading to me, and I have the visual thing in front of me where I'm making notes. So like, the book becomes my notebook. I'm highlighting, making notes, and that kind of thing. So that's worked unbelievably well for me.
Can I ask, is that a technique that you came up with by yourself?
Yeah, I've been doing that now I tell that to everyone now. So a lot of my agents do the same thing now, but I've done that for, I don't know, like 5 years or so. I've been doing that for a long time. And I just, the way that I did that is, I would sometimes get the Audible and try that out. I wasn't learning at a higher rate. I would try to read it. I wasn't learning at a higher rate. I literally had the same Audible, and I noticed I had the book in my library. So I grabbed it, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, hey, it sounds redundant, but because I'm all over the place, it worked even better. So I put it together, and I've done it ever since.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm the kind of, one of the goals of mindfulness is to be able to be present in the moment. So you're right, you found a workaround that works for you as to how to be present with the book.
Yeah.
And that means that you have to have it visually in front of you, as well as have it like as a auditory sensation. And yeah, so you have cultivated your own way of mindfully reading,
Yeah.
so that your mind kind of stays in this moment and doesn't wander elsewhere. That's awesome.
So I didn't solve the quieting the voice and the mindfulness overall, but I just kind of, in typical fashion, I found a hack to get around it. But nonetheless, it works.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that so much is, it has taken me years. So I started practicing yoga about 20 years ago. And it has taken me like 2 decades to really embrace what does it actually look like to observe my thoughts without engaging with them. And it's like it's a day-to-day thing that I have to be intentional about. And there are more moments that I still engage with my thinking than moments when I don't. And so, it's challenging and you have to find workarounds. But if you find something, there's no one size fits all. So if you find something that works to help you be present, just the act of being present alone, you know, is healthy. So, you know, I support that. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else? Or has anyone tried to practice mindfulness or tried to practice kind of anything similar and had positive, negative, no experience, anything like that?
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Going back to observing your thoughts without engaging with them, what would you recommend to do to start just the training?
I would so thank you for the question. Um I would start small amounts of time. So maybe a minute in the morning, a minute at lunch, a minute like in the evening. And you can even set a timer and to kind of find a place that's comfortable to sit. Take a deep inhale, take an exhale. When you're exhaling, try to tell yourself, I'm detaching from my thoughts. Or maybe not even say anything, maybe just exhale. And then as your thoughts come through, because inevitably you will have thoughts, to you almost want to treat, so I'm a very visual person, so I almost want to treat them as like leaves on a stream. So or food on a conveyor belt. Like we're watching them pass. So if you can think of your thought like, okay, I need to make dinner. Okay, I need to wash the dishes, or oh, I can't believe I responded in this way. Can you put the thought like on a leaf on the stream, or can you put the thought like on a conveyor belt and just watch it go by, but not respond to it? So just recognize it, and then probably another thought will come, and then recognize it. Another thought will come, recognize it. If you practice that in small chunks, I don't know, see what happens. What are your thoughts about that?
What would you consider engaging? So you said just watch it without recognizing. So let's go
Yep.
back to, for example, the dinner. What would be engaging actually?
So engaging would look like okay, so the thought is, okay, I have to make dinner. So engaging with that thought would be, okay, let me get my grocery list. Okay, I need to get eggplant, whatever. I making the list. Okay, when am I going to go to the grocery store? So it's allowing that thought to direct your attention. So if that thought is like, I need to make dinner, it's then allowing your mind to continue to follow that track in terms of planning the meal, planning how you're going to get the meal. Not engaging would just be recognizing the thought of, I need to make dinner. Pause. Let it go. And it's really, we don't even recognize that we follow, our thoughts. It's hard. But that's a great question. Other,
Thank you.
oh,
The homework is clear. Thank you.
yeah. Other thoughts, questions, concerns? Quiet crowd. What do you, I mean, what is the general, having talked a little bit about what mindfulness sort of looks like, I mean, is it something that folks have interest in? Is it something that people would want to implement? Or
I think
if
it's like
there's,
it's always a goal for mental health and wellness, and it's one of those things I think that some people put a higher priority to, some people may not, but it's in the mix of being healthy minded in general, right? I think it's one of those kind of things. It's part of your mental balance.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Another way, if you are just starting to introduce it, is, and this was actually how I started in it for myself, is to practice it when you're doing another activity. So practice it when you're going on a walk, or practice it when you're at the gym, and just recognize and observe both your surroundings. So for example, if you're at the gym, you're on the treadmill, making observations to yourself about, my hands are sweaty, my leg muscles are aching, my breath is feeling labored, I see someone to my right that is wearing yellow, I see outside the window someone that is walking down the street, the temperature of the room feels hot, it feels humid. All of those observations are encouraging you to stay in the present moment, which is the ultimate, I mean, that's ultimately what you're trying to do. You're not trying to clear your mind, you're trying to stay in the present moment, as opposed to being in the past or the future, or at the grocery store, or back at work, wherever, all the other spaces that we live in. We're trying to stay in the space where our body is right now, because your body's at the gym, but a lot of times our minds are, 97 other places. Other questions, comments, concerns? If not, I can go ahead with kind of leading you in the body scan if you would like. Okie dokie. All right, so a body scan is a type of mindful meditation. I almost said medication. It's not a medication. I'm not a doctor. So it's a meditation that goes through the different parts of the body and encourages to just be present in that space of the body. If I see that there's a chat. Okay. Hi, Alan. So if you want to close your eyes, you can. If you want to find a comfortable seat, you can. If you want to lay down, you can. But none of those are required. So you choose. I'll give you like a couple seconds to just kind of get situated for how you want to sit or lay. And I will lead you through the different parts of the body. When I'm going to close my eyes to lead it, because that is how kind of I experience it. When I say different parts of the body, I am going to encourage you to envision we'll go with white, I guess. I'm going to encourage you to envision just a white light, a white dot, a light ball that is in that space of the body part. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to encourage everyone to take just a deep breath in and a deep breath out. We're going to do 3 breaths. So a deep breath in and a deep breath out. A deep breath in and a deep breath out. Feel the seat that you are seated in. Feel what it feels like on your buttocks, on your back. Pay attention to the temperature of the room. Pay attention to what the clothing on your body feels like. The noises that you hear. The noises that you hear outside of the room. The noises that you hear inside of the room. Pay attention to any thoughts that are coming up, any feelings of uncomfort, stress, pleasure, joy. And when you've kind of observed all of those sensations, try to picture a white light at the very top of your head. So very top of your head. This white light, I'm going to picture it almost like a ping pong ball. It's about the size of a ping pong ball. I'm going to move it through the different parts of the body. When I name a body part, I encourage you to move that ping pong ball to that part. No other action required. So take this white ball and move it to your forehead, to your right eyebrow, your right eye socket, right eyeball, right eyelid, right eyelashes, left eyebrow, left eye socket, left eyeball, left eyelid, nose, right nostril, left nostril, tip of the nose, right cheekbone, right ear, right inner ear, left cheekbone, left ear, left inner ear, mouth, top lip, bottom lip, back of the mouth, tongue, upper teeth, lower teeth, roof of the mouth, underneath the tongue, chin, throat, right shoulder, right arm, right elbow, right lower arm, right palm, right thumb, right index finger, right middle finger, right fourth finger, right pinky finger, back of the right hand, lower right arm, right elbow, upper right arm, right collarbone, left collarbone, left shoulder, left upper arm, left elbow, left lower arm, left palm, left thumb, left pointer finger, left middle finger, left ring finger, left pinky finger, back of the palm, lower arm, left elbow, left shoulder, left chest, right chest, left lung, right lung, stomach muscle, left hip, right thigh, right knee, right shin, right top of the foot, right big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, sole of the foot, right calf, back of the knee, back of the thigh, right buttocks, left buttocks, left thigh, left knee, left shin, left ankle, left foot, big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, sole of the foot, left leg, back of the knee, left thigh, left hip, stomach, middle of the chest, throat, mouth, nose, middle of the forehead. Stay in the middle of the forehead for 3 breaths. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes, you can move around, whatever feels comfortable. So that was a body scan. I think that took 5 to 7 minutes, and I apologize for the dog barking in the middle. That is another way to practice being mindful, to being present in the space that your body lives right now. By just bringing attention to each of the different body parts and recognizing that they're there. No judgment needed, just placing attention. Thoughts, questions, concerns, experiences, loved it, hate it, never want to do it again, want to do it every day.
Hard. As short a period of time that for me, that's hard. That's tough to do.
Yeah. What was challenging about it?
I can't stay still for long. And so staying still, but it helps because you're focusing and you're kind of walking me through like different focus. So you did a great job in that. For my personality, I have too many things in my head. So it's tough. It's a tough thing to do. I think it's a healthy exercise to do. It's not easy. As quick as that was, it's like, because you were like, that's like 5 or 7. I felt like, oh my God, it's like 3 hours long. It's so long.
So you practice short 1 minute practice, 1 minute. And if you know that your body needs like movement to be able to engage in this process, then do practice something like that while you're moving. Like use the technique of when you're walking or when you're at the gym, like even just recognizing, because then you're not trying to trying to force your mind or your body to be a way that it's not. And so if you're like innately active, embrace that and figure out ways that you can practice being present and observing while you're being active, not sitting. Other questions, concerns, experiences?
Love that. Felt much easier than the regular meditation.
Yeah. And when you say regular meditation, is that like sitting quietly and?
Yeah, just observing the thoughts and not engaging. I
Yeah.
was still able to think about my calendar though. So there is something to work on, but it
Well,
was
and
easier because there were so many things to think about.
Yeah. So you're giving your mind another job. Because the mind, it doesn't, our minds in this day and age, they don't want to just sit and be quiet. Like that isn't, and so this allows your mind to still be active and have a task, but it's a task that is focusing on the present moment. And it's okay to have thoughts, thoughts about your calendar, thoughts about whatever. When you recognize that you're having them, then you just come back to wherever it is on the body that, what you're listening to is guiding you through. You may miss a couple of parts, and that's okay. It's that's fine.
Probably naming the parts out loud or just in your mind helps, just not just to think about it, but name them. Then you have to just concentrate on the names of body parts.
Yeah. And so this like narrated body scan, you can find similar things on YouTube, you can find them on the app. So it can be hard to lead yourself through it at first. But I mean, for some folks you can do it. I personally enjoy it more when I have someone else guide me through it, because then I don't even need to think like the narration of, I mean, even as you could tell, I was like struggling to remember the part of the legs. I could not remember what. And so, I don't want to be stressed about remembering what the name of the leg is called. Calf. That's what I couldn't remember. Yeah. So, yeah. Other thoughts, questions, concerns, anything? No? All right.
Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to be here in place of Heather. And, I enjoyed it, and I wish you all the best on your weekends ahead. And I will leave you with one of my favorite quotes, which is by Viktor Frankl. And it says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So creating that pause, creating that space.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashley, and everyone. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And we will see you, you and Heather, probably next month together, I would assume.
Probably, yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye,
Yeah.
guys.